everyone, welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today I have a returning guest. Listen, he's a director, and he has a sequel out too. It's one of my favorite found footage series, and it's called I Am Haunted 3. It's streamed right now on his YouTube channel as well as Found TV. I have with us Brandon Rhiness. Brandon, welcome back to the Horror Room, my friend.
Thanks. I'm glad to be back. This is my third time or fourth or
third time, man. It's the third time. Yes.
Nice. Yes.
As you know, I'm a huge fan of your work, man. I love the Grotesque series. I love the I Am Haunted. Glad to see it as a part 3. Now, tell us a little bit about I Am Haunted Part 3.
It's one of those things like I'm Haunted kind of started. It was kind of like a side project to kind of, basically kill time between bigger projects. So I asked Elizabeth Chamberlain, who was the star of the first I'm Haunted. It's like, hey, do you want to shoot this kind of found footage thing that we could do super, super easy? And we'll kind of just put it on YouTube. And I didn't really think anything of it. And it ended up, being one of my most popular movies. So I was like, oh, okay. I guess people like this kind of thing. So I made a part 2 and I was like, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Maybe we could kind of, strike lightning twice or capture the lightning twice. And lo and behold, people like part 2. So I was like, may as well keep going. So I did part 3, and it's kind of weird because I've done, I did a Grotesque part 2, but this is the first time I've done 2 sequels to something. And so it's kind of like, well, do you just keep redoing the same thing or do you take it a different direction? So I kind of took it, it's, it's still horror, but it has some kind of sci-fi elements. There's some other dimension time travel stuff involved, and I decided to do something different than the typical haunted house kind of thing. And I was worried. I'm like, man, this one, it gets kind of weird. I'm like, people are going to hate it. I was bracing myself for this backlash of everyone that thinks I ruined the series, and it never happened. Everyone seems to like it. I don't think we really have any negativity towards it, which shocked me. And now everyone's asking for part 4, and they wanted to keep going. So I'm happy to get part 3 out there. It continues the whole demon seer storyline that was set up in the first one, and it takes it in a different direction than people might be expecting.
So I can imagine as a filmmaker, when you start building a series or a franchise, to not go the Halloween 3 route, which is something completely different, and you might get that backlash.
Yeah, there was. I already have the script done for part 4. We begin shooting that soon. And my idea was that I was like, you know what? I'm going to end the whole seer story, and it's going to be a completely new, haunting kind of story with no connection to the earlier ones. But as I started writing it, I was like, maybe I'll have a tiny Easter egg in there that connects to it. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll just expand on that a little bit. And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, the whole story kind of it's still part of the same story. So I was like, yeah, maybe people seem to like the characters involved in this. They like where it's going. So maybe instead of a complete break, I should keep going with it until I milk it dry.
Yeah. Now, listen, I've always been a found footage fan, even going back from the golden found footage, which is Blair Witch Project, and it seems like people are craving found footage movies. I mean, to the point that that there's several streaming apps for found footage horror. What do you think is the fascination and the love? The reasons for the fascination and the love for found footage films.
Yeah, it's strange because, to be honest, people are always shocked when I tell them I'm not a found footage fan. I've seen Blair Witch, really? I've seen Paranormal Activity, I've seen kind of a few of the big ones, but a lot of the other ones, I'm not a fan. So people are like, why do you make them? And it was like, yeah, because it was basically just an experiment I tried, and I didn't realize even now, in the last week or two, I'm realizing more every day that it's there are fans of these. And my series got picked up by Found TV, which is a streaming platform dedicated to found footage movies. And it's a married couple that owns it, and we have these monthly meetings, and they're great, and they're out there pushing it, and trying to make something of this. And they're their streaming service, they had goals that they these milestones they wanted to hit, and they blew past them in terms of subscriber numbers and advertising revenue and everything, because they weren't expecting this many people to be that into it. So I started to realize, like, oh, there is a fan base for this kind of thing, and even some of the comments I get on YouTube and people messaging me and stuff. I think people they like something different because like horror movies, a lot of them, like a lot of the bigger budget ones, it kind of runs in the same problem Hollywood has with like superhero movies. It all starts to be the same. It's like the stories are the same, they look the same, and it's kind of like, all right, I get it that you spend a lot of money, so they need to, appeal to a big audience to try to recoup their costs. But I think people just want a different type of story. And when you do something like found footage that you could do very cheaply, it's easy just to try something. You can experiment more because there's most like less at stake, where you could just have fun. And it's kind of, forget about what camera you're using, forget about all the, the technical stuff. You could just do a lot more. And I even said on an interview I did last week that people seem to be more forgiving. Because, like, a lot of my effects in mine, they're very, very cheap effects. Like, if someone wanted to really criticize it, like, they could just, you could make fun of this thing for an hour because it's so cheap. But no one does. And I told that to this, the name escapes me of the podcast, but it's dedicated to found footage horror. It's found footage horror podcast. And she noted that, like, people are so forgiving because they just want something fresh so badly that they'll overlook all sorts of negative technical things just to get some sort of cool story that they don't get anywhere else. And the thing is, like, if I'm Haunted had have cost me the same amount that Grotesque did, I probably wouldn't have made it. The appeal was like, I can make this fast and cheap, and we can forget about all the stuff that really ties us down and just tell a cool story. And I think people just kind of like that because a lot of people comment, they're like, like I'm Haunted is so far better than anything coming out of Hollywood. It's so much different than anything that Hollywood's doing. And I think people just want to see more stuff that isn't what they're normally fed.
And there's something real about it. It's and I don't know if it's the gritty look or what, but there's something real to me watching found footage. Like, is this real? Is this really happening? There's an aspect to it that it makes you feel like, wow, this could happen to me.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, it looks more real. And there's always kind of that disconnect, especially as like technology evolves and movies look better. Mm-hmm. It almost has the opposite effect where they become less scary. Something like Chainsaw Massacre, like, it looks old and gritty, but that kind of makes it scary. That's what makes it like good. And now where it's like you can have like the nicest, most polished movie ever, but it's somehow it loses the scariness when it just looks like the same picture as like Deadpool versus Wolverine. It's like the same kind of camera, like the same type of look, and it's like somehow you need to just have it look grittier and like less professional. And there's something about it, like with the found footage, it's like it's not real, but it kind of looks real, and maybe it is real. And people even said, like, I'm Haunted, there's no music. Like, I don't really have any, like, there's no, like, stingers or any sort of those jump kind of things in there. There's just, like, no music. And people say that, like, that makes it scarier. The fact that, like, I'm not trying to scare the audience like a normal horror movie does. It's kind of like, here's the video, make what you want of it. And they're kind of like, that even makes it scarier.
And I'm not a fan of I love the Halloween series, but I'm not a fan of the last trilogy made. But 2018, I love that one because it gave, the way they filmed it, it looked gritty. It looked like you were watching something from, the late 80s, early 90s. It had that gritty look to it. Why do you think so many filmmakers are steering away from that, and they are looking, to use a 4K Blackmagic cameras for perfection?
It's hard to know why. I think they just say, like, if this certain level of like technical achievement is possible, you may as well go for it. Like, why settle for anything less? It's like, hey, we have this new camera out that's even higher quality. Well, that's the best camera, so you should use that. And then every year it's like, well, now there's an even better camera. And it's like, well, at what point does it really matter? And it's funny because I talk to other filmmakers and they always ask, like, what camera do you use and all this technical stuff? And I'm like, is that really what excites you about this business? Like, for me, it's just like, man, I can tell all these stories I want. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen to Mildred in Grotesque 3? And all these things like that. That's kind of what I'm excited about. And it's like, it just seems like like meeting your favorite baseball player, and your only question is like, what kind of glove do you use? What kind of shoes do you have? It's like, is that really the most interesting thing about the whole thing? It's like, to me, that's like the boring stuff that you need to be able to finish it. So that's why, like, when I shoot, like, usually for I'm Haunted, I just use my phone. It's not even my phone. It's like I think it's like 2 generations older, like a 2019 phone or something. But even on Grotesque, I don't even really have a opinion on what camera we use. I leave that up to the cinematographer, the camera department, and as long as it looks good, I'm happy with it. But a lot of people, they're all about the technical stuff, and the sound guys are all about the sound stuff, and I guess you're into whatever you're into, but it kind of just makes you question, like, are they just in here to make, like, they're into the video aspect of it, not the story of it? It's like, as a viewer, do you really want to watch something that's made by someone that doesn't care about entertainment value? They just want it to be technically correct.
Yes.
They want to impress their professors at film school. It's like, I don't know, but if the story's boring, I don't care if it's a friggin' 20K video. It's like, I just don't want to watch it. I'd rather watch something that purposely looks gritty, just because it's an entertaining thing to watch.
Because I mean, there's nothing worse than watching a beautiful movie that is absolutely boring, or it doesn't have a good story, or it doesn't have great characters. There's nothing worse, and I'm like, do some filmmakers like miss the point of what filmmaking is? And the filmmaking is, it's all about the story.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, it's hard to explain, because sometimes you want it to look good, but there comes a time where it's like, it's kind of like diminishing returns, where it's like, well, how good can you get to the point where, like, it's good enough? Like, if you look at a movie from, like, say the original Nosferatu, like 100 years old, yeah, the cameras are kind of crummy then. It doesn't look that good. But once you get to, like, The Godfather and stuff, it's like, cinematography was really good at that point. Like, why make it better and better and better? And then, okay, they always upgrade it, or they digitize it, or whatever process they got to go through, so it looks even better. But it's like, they're going to keep doing that. In 20 years, they're going to update all the current movies to make them look even better. But it's still the same movie. Like, it's still the same story. So I'm glad that there are people that care about it, because when it comes time to make something, I want the camera department to really care about how it looks, and I want the sound department to really care about good sound. But my job is just like, especially as writer and director, it's like, tell the most entertaining thing. And now that I know that found footage is so popular, I'm just like, you know what? If I can make the same or even more money creating a found footage film, and I don't have to spend these huge budgets, like, I'd be stupid to not try to do more of them.
I agree. Now, is there some point when you feel like, okay, I'm going into that cash grab?
There might be, or it could just be one of those things, like, maybe, if I can crank out 5 of these in a year and then do one big one, every year, every couple of years or something, it might be something like that. But as long as I'm enjoying doing it and people are watching it and it's giving me some sort of fulfillment, whether it's creative fulfillment or money coming in, like, may as well keep doing it. Like, it's, a lot of creative people, they have like a day job or some sort of side gig, where I don't. I write, like, all my income comes from some sort of creative thing. So if my side gig could be making found footage movies, where my main gig is making non-found footage, well, hell, that's a sweet deal, right? Like, I'm still having fun making them.
Now, why do you think a lot of filmmakers are steering away from sequels, and they are just taking the original movie and they're going backwards? They're going to prequels.
Yeah, I've never understood that. Like, anytime I talk to, like, someone who likes horror movies, we have this same discussion. And I think everyone out there, it's like, yeah, it seemed like kind of like from late 70s or something to like early 2000s, it was all about the sequels.
Mm-hmm.
The Friday the 13th Part 8. And then all of a sudden now it's like either prequel or just remaking the same story in a more updated way. And you hear people complain, you probably can't go on Facebook or anything and not see someone complaining about that. It's just like, it's all remakes and prequels, or just like, hey, we're going to take this one character and then tell their story of how they got there.
Spin-off,
and it's like, what happens next? What happened? That's kind of what I want. Like, I used to, I still do. I love, the Nightmare on Elm Street, where you could over the course of a week or whatever, watch every single one of them. and just see how it progresses, and the story continues, or it just the numbers may go up, but it's a different character, a different it doesn't relate to the first ones,
Mhm.
like Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's Dead has nothing to do with the first movie really, other than Freddy. But you still watch them in order, and I like that. I would hate it that it's like watch remake number 3, watch remake number 4, it's like, oh good lord, I don't want any remakes of things, and it just seems like here's the story, but they lack the imagination to be like, okay, now what happens? It's like, well, we don't know, but we can explain how they got there. We can go. It's like, well, I don't care about how they got there. I don't care about how James Bond became James Bond. I only care about the stuff he does as James Bond.
Mhm.
But it seems like, and it kind of ruins it in a way where it's like as soon as you find out how Darth Vader became Darth Vader, it makes him a little bit less mysterious, and he's not as cool. It's like I don't really care about Freddy Krueger's history. They give a little bite-sized bit. He was a child killer that got out of prison. The parents killed him. That's about enough to make him kind of scary and to continue the story. But I don't want to go back to when he was alive and see all that stuff. I know there's like fan films that do that, and it's like that does not interest me. Now we're doing a Crystal Lake TV show about when Jason was young. It's like I don't care about Jason when he's 8. I care about Jason when he's a full-grown man killing people. I'd rather have like Jason Part 11. Just continue that story. Like just see where it goes. Even if he's on another planet now, just like I just want to see something new and fresh, right? But it's like as soon as those series ended, with the Freddy and the Jason both did a remake, and then it's like it just died. Like Scream's still going, but the other ones, like same with Hellraiser, right? Oh, we do a remake, and then it like just seems like it petered out, and no one wants to tell a sequel anymore. And I don't know why, because like I don't know if I'm alone in that kind of thought, but I have to imagine a lot of horror fans, they want it to keep going and not just I bet you the next Halloween they make is going to be a remake, like
be a remake,
or taking the story in a totally different direction, or going back and doing a direct sequel to the first one. Like you just can't keep going. The same like Exorcist, right? It's like that was technically like sequel they did, but it was more of a remake, and it's like
I don't know where the fuck they were going with that one. But a series that I bash a lot, and it's on my wall, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And like it's like remake after reimagination after remake after reimagination, and like no, we already know Leatherface's backstory. We don't need to see another version of that. Let's carry on and let's see what Leatherface is doing. You know what I mean? I want to grow with this horror character and see over time how he has changed.
Yeah, I would love that. I'd love to see. Okay, Leatherface is in prison. Somehow he gets out of his cell and he runs loose, crazy in the prison, and something like that. He maybe escapes prison and he's loose in a city now. Maybe he's, instead of being in the backwoods of Texas, maybe now he's in New York. There's things you could do. There's things you could explore. Like, don't people get excited about that? Where when I talk about things we could do, like, what if we do this? What if we do this? Like it seems like continuing it and brainstorming ideas would make it exciting rather than let's remake it, go back to the roots, suck the fun out of it, and then just have a very dry version of it. But that's what they do with like every movie. It's like, okay, like it's just that wasn't very good, and it doesn't give you that same feeling that you did watching the other ones. And I don't think it's because we're growing older or something, and doesn't have the same appeal, because I watch some horror movies or some new movies of any genre, and it's like, yeah, that was cool. I do like new movies. It just seems like horror, like superheroes and horror, they just seem to be butchering those movies like for no reason.
I agree. Now, when it comes to indie horror, do you feel like more and more indie horror filmmakers are trying to do what big budget horror is doing instead of doing what indie horror has normally done and being original and coming up with creative ideas?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of like fresh new indie stuff where you're not constrained by the huge budgets and the and the executives, the studio system that have to you don't have to do what they tell you. You can do what you want. So there's all sorts of crazy stuff coming on, which is great. I just have a feeling that like as you climb the ladder, you lose that control. I've been, some of the scripts I've sold and stuff, and the writing I've done. Like the bigger the budget, the less control you have, and the more it's not what you want. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, at what point do you sell out? Well, when they're offering you big money, like we got to make a living.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if they offer me, several $1,000,000, hell yeah, I'll write whatever piece of crap they want. But when I'm making my own stuff, it's like I don't want that kind of interference. And it's like if I'm the one that's helping raise the money and it's all in my back, it's like I'm going to tell any story I want. And I think there's a lot, even people I know in my own circle and the extended circle of indie horror people. There's so much creative stuff out there. I think they're doing what people should be, is just telling cool stories that speak to you. And then there's kind of the next level, well, maybe a couple levels up with like A24 and companies that are like making way bigger budget things, but they're really, really good. Like they're not the kind of stuff like Hollywood's making. And then Blumhouse, like for a while there, they seem to be the big cool one doing all the early days of The Conjuring, and now they kind of went off the rails, and now their movies suck. I hate to say it.
Yeah. Because when it comes to Blumhouse, it's like for every 5, there's a good one.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And like, I don't get excited when I see Blumhouse on the movie. I'm like, I don't get excited as I used to be, because Blumhouse was churning out great products. But you look at A24, and one of my favorite movie series, a horror movie series out recently, was the X series. And X was amazing. Pearl was great. But then Ty West got a bigger budget, with Maxine. And I feel like he missed it. He didn't.
Yeah, you were the one. Last time I was on your show, you encouraged me to watch X and Pearl. I'd never seen them, and I watched them, and I was like, holy shit, those are so good. I haven't seen Maxine yet, but I heard the same thing, that it's a noticeable step down. But yeah, those movies were original. They looked cool. They were well acted. It was a lot of things I hadn't really seen before. I was like, holy shit, this is like a guy doing something cool. Mm-hmm. But it's like, yeah, like and that happens it even happens with like musicians, like when they're young and they don't have a lot of money, they just had some sort of like edge to them. And then all of a sudden when they're older and lazier and they got millions of dollars and unlimited budgets, it's like, it's not the same anymore. And maybe that's kind of sad for Ty West, but maybe he did that. Once he has all the money, it's like you just kind of get lazy, and you don't have to try as hard. Is that the reason? I don't know. I've never had those kind of budgets. I'm still wallowing in the world of indie horror. So if someone gave me like $70 million to do Grotesque 3, I would more than be willing to take it. But I think the movie would definitely be different. Like it would probably look more professional, but the vibe would be different. It would just feel different because I would have way more people involved. Way more people would have opinions. I wouldn't have to struggle doing the cheap effects. I could just do whatever I wanted. And I bet you it would probably be the least favorite of everyone. Like when people watch it, it'd be their least favorite one.
Because that's why I hear a lot of people say about Terrifier 3, and I'm in agreement. Like yes, Damien Leone had a way bigger budget on this one, and so a lot of the things that he would normally do, he paid to have people do other things. And like I felt like when it came to that movie, it was a step down from part 2.
Again, it's another one I haven't seen. I haven't seen part 3 yet, but yeah, I've heard that too. It's just like there's like an inverse, like basically the more money the movie has, like the worse it gets. Not always. Like the first Avengers movie was pretty damn cool, and that had a massive budget. But it is possible, but it just seems like, I can't explain. I don't know if it's like a technical thing where it's like the person's vision is taken away once they have too many chefs in the kitchen kind of thing, or is it just like the budget kills the creativity? Like I don't know what the reason is, but I'm sure like you could think of 100 examples of seeing a series, and as they get more money, the movies get worse. It just it just seems like it's a common thing. Like having more money might be nice for the people working on it because they get paid more. But for the viewer, it's like, well, I don't care how much the movie costs. I just care how good it is. And it's just like, oh, Terrifier 4 is going to have a $100 million budget, and then Terrifier 5 is gonna have 200 million, and then it's like, is that going to be any better? It's probably just going to get crappier to the point people stop watching and then they stop making them, and it'll be sad because there's something there.
And I'm a huge sports fan. I even see that in sports. Like when a player gets that max deal, when they're on a rookie contract, they are out there killing it. And then once they get that big max deal, it seems like they just disappear. They start slumping. And I agree with you. I think the motivation is not there anymore. Like the motivation was to get to that point. And then once you get to that point, you kind of take your foot off the pedal.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It happens with musicians, like with bands too. A lot of them you could kind of tell where they, which album it was, where it wasn't the same. And it's usually the one where they hit mainstream success. And it's like, and then after that, it's like, yeah, they're still okay, but it's not the same as it was in those days where they were, they were hungry, they were fighting for everything. I don't think there's a way around it because, like, personally, I don't want to be always struggling to make cheap movies. I would love to do big Hollywood movies so I could, have more income.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be, it's like, yeah, Brandon's movies were good up until 2026 when he got rich, and then all of a sudden now he's a big sellout. It's like, I want to, and it doesn't happen to anyone. Like there's guys like Steven Spielberg, where they've always been mega huge, and they still make good movies. Not all of them, but there's never that place where it's like, oh, it changed, and it's like he puts his love and care into each movie. But then again, he doesn't do like for the most part, other than Indiana Jones maybe, or a bit of Jurassic Park. Like he just doesn't do like unlimited sequels. He just does different things each time. So maybe if the Terrifier guys did a completely different movie that had no relation to Art the Clown, maybe they could have a huge budget and some sort of creativity because it's something new. I don't know if there's some like psychological reason for that, or if it's just something that kind of, I think film fans know, especially horror fans, that just like more money does not equal better movie.
Yeah. Because I didn't think about that with my YouTube channel. Right now, I have no budget. I'm pretty much, put together stuff and make it as nice as possible. I'm like, but what if I become that guy who has 1 million subscribers and I'm bringing in a couple $100,000, if not $1 million a year, and now I got a fucking studio, a professional lighting person, camera person. Is my show going to be the same? Probably not.
No, it'll have more viewers. You'll be making more money, but there'll be a lot of people that are watching you now that would be like, man, I miss the days when he didn't have all that stuff, like, because your personality would change, right? Maybe even for the better. You might have more confidence and that kind of thing in your daily life, but people would just be like, it's not quite the same. Like, you might even have a bit of an ego that you don't even notice, and also then you would have advertisers that are like, hey man, we'll give you more money, but you got to say this or do this or be more like this or have this guest, and then and then time goes by, and then it's like, well, what happened to your show? It used to be different, and it's like, well, you're rich now, so you can't blame me for it, but you know what I mean? It's just when you see people go through that, it's just something you grew up with too. When it's like a YouTube person or just like a movie series like Indiana Jones. It's like a big part of my childhood, and then it sucks now. And it's like, you guys ruined it. And it's like
awful, isn't it?
And it's not like they started, because a lot of times, like say with the Jaws movies, like in the 80s and kind of before, they would cheap out on the sequels. They would do the one movie, and then they would get a fraction of that budget to do the sequels, and they go straight to video. Now it's the opposite. It seems like the sequels get bigger and bigger budgets, but they still get worse. So it's like, why are you spending more money on them? But it's like, Indiana Jones, I think the fifth one was the most expensive one. And it's like, how? That was the shittiest one. Like, thought 4 was bad until 5 came out, and now 4 is actually pretty decent.
Listen, I felt the same way recently. Gladiator is tied with Bloodsport as my 2 favorite movies all the time. And surprisingly, my 2 favorite movies are not horror movies. But but then they released Gladiator 2, and I saw that, and I was like, and it had a way bigger budget than the first one did. And oh my goodness, it's bad. Like it's not even good. And I'm like, fuck, like this has fucked. I wish they never made this, because now it's kind of lessened my experience of the original, how I thought it was.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but it's again like I kind of believe people when they say that, and I kind of knew as soon as they announced it. It's like it's not going to be as good as the original. Sometimes you have to hope that it's like, it's pretty good. That's what I was hoping like with the new Exorcist. I was hoping it's like, I hope it's going to be. It's not going to be as good as the original, obviously, but it might be like, okay, good attempt. You know, that was a decent movie. But it's like, no, it's one of those things. It's like, no, it's so bad that it hurts. It dishonors the memory of the first one. And people say like, oh, it doesn't matter. You could still like the first one. And it's like, no, it does tarnish that reputation. It is like it just watching the original, knowing where it goes. Not that there wasn't other Exorcist sequels, but they were far enough in the past that you kind of pretend they don't exist. But here's like a brand new take, and it's like, like it's just like you just put a stake in the heart of the whole concept of that movie, which is like a masterpiece.
And they tossed so much fucking money into. They had it built up as this new Exorcist trilogy, and the first one was so fucking bad, and the returns on it were so fucking bad. They canceled the whole entire trilogy.
Yeah, and that's good. They got to stop doing that. No more of this signing someone on for 3 movies. It's like do one, and if it's good and people like it, they get a chance to do another one. No more like I don't even like things like say that you brought up the Halloween, the Gordon Green Halloween. It's like a 3-part story, but the story is so messed up. It goes off in crazy directions. Like the first one was good. It just seems like they have a 3-part movie, but it's like I don't want to watch like a movie that the first one where it's a setup to the others. I want it to be a contained movie and not, like some of the new movies like Madam Web and those kind of stupid things where it's like they're trying to build towards something bigger. So the whole movie, like the women don't even get their spider costumes till like the very end.
Yeah,
because like that should be at the beginning. Like I don't want to see a movie leading up to something bigger. It's like just tell that one movie, and then if it's good, make another movie. Like just do one piece at a time. Don't be having these like higher aspirations, and then the plug gets pulled anyway. Like yeah.
But you can tell with that 2018 Gordon Green Halloween that was meant to be a one-off. You can tell it was meant to be a one-off. It had a perfect ending, the way it ended. And, of course, New Line started throwing money at him. Let's come and make a sequel. We need to make 2 more movies, and it looks like something that was just fucking thrown together at that point.
Yeah, like I don't think he had a plan. Like the second one, like Halloween Kills, I kind of like it. It's fun to watch. It's kind of dumb at parts, but it's kind of fun to watch. And also, then the third one, it's like, was he leading there the whole time? It just seems like that's a standalone movie. That should have been something that wasn't even a Halloween movie. That should have been like a different movie altogether. But it's just like, was this his plan for the trilogy? It's like this first self-contained one, and then a weird one, and then some other story that's loosely connected to it, but not really. It's like that his plan for Exorcist? Like the next one would be like some wacky thing that's weird, and then the third one would be not even connected to it. Like it's almost like I think George Lucas had that plan where in his head he had a plan for Star Wars prequels and sequels, but he hadn't really written it down yet. So when it came time to make it, there's all these plot holes where it doesn't quite work. Is it that kind of thing? I wonder.
Because he was committed to doing 3. When you commit yourself to doing X amount of films or projects, you kind of have to kind of stick with it at that point. And even though you don't know where it might be going.
Yeah, and bring it back to I'm Haunted. It's kind of like I made the first one without any chance of doing a second one. So when I did the second one, I was like, okay, well, how do I connect it to the first? But I did it a bit at a time. I don't have this like long vision of where it's going to go. Like I kind of know what we're going to do with part 5 because we're shooting that back to back with part 4. But beyond that, I don't know if I'm going to make any or where it's going. If I had this long vision, but then I constantly had to change it based on audience reaction to the other ones, it's going to mess the story up, right? So it's kind of like I'll just do one, and I'll do one more, and I do one more. And if you kind of look too far in the future, then you start aiming like it's kind of like the plot of the current movie is aiming too far ahead where there's no payoff. It's like, oh, we're setting this character up, but we're not going to pay that off until part 3. And then if part 3 never gets made, then it's like, why is this character in the movie? Like you're setting up things that never follow through, and then you just have a mess of a story, and people don't feel satisfied.
Because Halloween Ends. I'm gonna tell you what Halloween Ends is. It seems like to me. It seems like there was supposed to be a fourth movie, right? And then like halfway through the production, somebody said, "Oh no, there's not gonna be a fourth movie. This is the only one." So, and they're halfway through the idea or filming the movie. They're like, "Fuck! All right, let's go ahead and figure out how to wrap this fucking story that we just fucking started up." That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, it definitely had that. Like the Corey character. It's like, what? Why was he even in the movie? Really? Like, you could have just gotten rid of that character and had it more of a Michael story. Like, it just seemed. I mean, yeah, it seemed like maybe they were setting up Corey was going to become the new Michael, and then they're
yeah,
like, "Oh, we're not doing another one. Okay, well, we better have Corey die then."
I know.
And then it's like, okay, well, what was the point of him being in the story then?
That's what I think it was. So listen, I'm just thinking about the best and the best. I think there was supposed to be a fourth one, and they were trying to introduce Corey to take over in part four, and then some kind of way midway through they're like, "Yeah, we're not going to do a part four." And now you got this fucking Corey character, and you're like, "Fuck, we got to kill him off."
Yeah, some guy who's never been in the series, 13 movies, he's never been mentioned or anything, and then he appears in one movie and then gets killed, and then there's the showdown between Laurie and Michael, which has been building up, for 40 some years. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, how does Corey fit into that? Like,
I
is this
know.
some imposter that came in from a different movie and then became the main character and ate up like half the runtime?
It was so confusing, man. That meant, I was excited for Halloween Kills. I mean, Halloween Ends because I did like the first one. The second one was okay, and I wanted to see. The previews made it look awesome. I was going to see the final showdown between Laurie and Michael. By the way, it was probably one of the badass Michael Myers in any fucking Halloween movie to me. James Hughes Courtney did a great job as playing Michael Myers in that series, and like I was looking forward to it, and yeah, it was like getting blue balls, man. That's what it was like. It was like getting blue balls.
Yeah, and it's funny too because it's like I love watching the original ones. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not eight, but all the others, like even the kind of bad ones. I throw them on every year or two and kind of like rewatch them, and it has like rewatch value. Whereas I found the new ones don't. Like the 2018 one, I've seen that one a bunch of times. I like it every time I watch it. But even Halloween Kills, like I liked it
Yeah.
when I saw it. And I watched it again, and some of them get better the more you watch it, right? Like, and then especially Halloween Ends. Like when I saw it in the theater, I was like, that was weird, but it wasn't as bad as everyone's saying. It's actually okay. And then I tried watching it again, and I'm like, yeah, this is actually like really boring. Like I don't want to sit through it again. And honestly, I probably will never watch it again in my life. I'll watch Halloween Kills maybe. All the others I'll probably watch again a bunch of times, but it's like they just don't have the like same with the new Exorcist. Like I watched it again with my friend after I saw it in the theater, and he's like, yeah, that was bad. And then I was like, you know what? Like I'm gonna watch it again, and because maybe it'll grow on me. And like I got 20 minutes in, I was like, I can't even sit through this. Like it's just
Yeah.
pissing me off. Like it's like the original Exorcist. I watch it over and over, and I just like I love every second of it. And then now it's like it just doesn't have. It's like once you've seen it, there's no. It's like empty
It's,
calories, right? It's just like you don't.
it
There's
is.
no value in giving it more attention because there's
Yeah.
nothing more there.
Like if somebody went back onto my Facebook posts, right? When their first when Halloween Kills came out, I saw it in the theaters opening weekend, and my post was, "Oh my god, this was the greatest Halloween movie ever. This is now my favorite Halloween movie." And then and it was crazy because they were streaming that one and Halloween Ends simultaneously on HBO Max too. So I watched it Kills on a Friday night, and I was like, "Wow, this is the what's." And then I went and watched on HBO Max like 2 days later, and it got worse. I mean, it literally got worse. It literally got worse, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I said it many times. That whole hospital scene that took up like 40 minutes of the fucking movie, with them chasing the mental patient. It took up so much of the movie. It took away from the story, and it seemed like filler to me.
Yeah,
I fast forward through all of that shit the second
yeah,
time around, and I haven't watched it since.
yeah. That's what it is. Filler. It almost seems like he makes the movie, but he doesn't have enough story in it. So he's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I had a bunch of hospital stuff and kind of like a sideline story to fill it out. And then for the third one, he's like, damn, same problem again. I don't have enough story. Let's add a new character in, and then he could be doing stuff, and then have a part with him, and then he kills this kid at the beginning, so we could pad it. So the Michael story is like kind of like 30% of the movie, and then 70% this new character. Where it's like, yeah, like there's parts in there. Like if I watched Halloween Ends again, I would fast forward all the Corey stuff and just watch like the few cool parts, which is like 15 minutes of the movie. But it's like, why didn't you just make that the whole movie instead of the boring parts? But yeah, like there's so many filler parts where it's like, okay, I watched this once. I'm not going to sit through it again. I'll fast forward.
It's a drag. And the first two were so violent and bloody and gory. And that one was not, there was hardly no good kills in that movie.
Yeah, in part, yeah, there's the guy getting his tongue cut off. That was kind of gruesome, but I can't really remember. I can't even really remember any of the others.
Yeah. It's sad, man. All right, Brandon, listen, where can everyone find you?
Wherever find me, I have I'm on Instagram and Facebook just under my name, and Higher Universe, which is my company, and Higher Universe is my YouTube channel. So if you go there, you can find the I'm Haunted movies are on there. The first Grotesque movie is, or you can go to Tubi. Grotesque 2 is on Tubi. The first two I'm Haunteds are on Tubi. The third one is not yet, but it is on Found TV, and Found TV is a great new streaming platform. So I recommend watching them there because I really want to encourage. Tubi's already big, but Found TV, like they're just starting out. They have this very specific market, and they're doing great things. So yeah, go over to them, and you can watch I'm Haunted 1 through 3 on there.
Love it, man. Listen, everybody. By the way, I have in the link Higher Universe YouTube channel, so definitely check it out and subscribe and share over there as well. But listen, get over to Found TV because I agree. It's a new platform. Give them some support. And listen, if you love found footage, definitely check out I Am Haunted, the first one and second one, and part 3. And also, get your ass over to Tubi and check out Grotesque and Grotesque 2. I love those movies, as you already know. They're always a fun time. Brandon, always a pleasure to have you on, man.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Travis. Hopefully I'll be back for I'm Haunted 4 or 5 or whatever horror project I do next.
Let's keep it all we're going to I Am Haunted 20. No, I'm shit, Jeff. Don't go that far, man. Don't go that far. But by the way, is there going to be a Grotesque 3?
Probably, hopefully. I am writing it. I'll say that. Like I'm into the story. I have the story down and the script's partly done. It's just like, damn, are they expensive and hard to do? And with the resources I have, it's like I'm Haunted 2 or Grotesque 2 just like took so much out of me to get it done. It's just like, the thought of having to do that again. I don't know if I have it in me at this point. I might just have to kind of do some smaller found footage movies before I work up the courage to attempt it. But Grotesque 3 is on the horizon. If things happen, we can. Like I fully intend to do it. So Mildred will be back.
Awesome. And guys, listen. Also look out for Brandon. He's going to be making the next Halloween trilogy. They're going to be throwing millions of dollars on him, and he's going to jump on it.
Write me a check, and I'll make as many Halloweens as you want.
That's all going to be about Corey. The whole trilogy is going to be about Corey. Yes. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and that's Brandon Rhiness. We'll see you next time. Take care.